Sexual violence can take many forms, and it isn't just some isolated crime that happens out of the blue.
It's woven into our language, jokes, media, and even our own attitudes about how men and women should behave.
When these attitudes go unchecked, we contribute to a culture where consent can be disregarded and accountability is rare.
This enables all forms of sexual violence to continue happening at alarming rates.
1 in 5 women and 1 in 16 men in Australia have been sexually assaulted since the age of 15. Over 1 in 2 women and 1 in 4 men have experienced sexual harassment in their lifetime. We all should have the right to say yes and no to anything that happens to our bodies, and to have our boundaries respected.
We call this consent culture, and we're working towards it.
We have a long way to go to get there, so how did we get here? And what can we do about it?
I think just being in footy rooms, growing up, you see and hear things where, you know, the next bloke's just trying to escalate it. They're trying to take it to the next level to say something degrading about one of the blokes there. Certainly women and girls judging them about their bodies or sexual conquest, this kind of stuff. And everyone's just trying to outflex the next bloke as to who's the biggest dog in the room.
How hot on a scale of 1 to 10 is this girl?
This is such a classic one, but it's a classic for a reason. That a boy who was being sort of mean to me was doing it because he liked me. Really, the message there was accept harm or problematic behaviour as a compliment.
Boys will be boys. That was the whole thing growing up. Like a boy's like pulls a girl's hair or something like that. You know, that's him flirting with her and stuff.
You'd like to think that guys aren't purposely trying to hurt women, but then that's that pressure coming from society and other guys. They put themselves in those situations to come back and feel validation from their own mates.
If you're more sexually experienced, then you're cooler. You've sort of got social currency. And if you're less sexually experienced, then you're weird.
What does it say about us as a society where I can categorically say that tens of thousands of young people tell me that rape jokes and rape threats are completely normalised in every postcode across Australia?
When you hear a rape joke, say in the playground or in a group of friends or in a TikTok that you're scrolling past, it can feel really invalidating or scary.
When we talk about normalising sexual violence, we're talking about the subtle ways society shrugs off, mocks, or minimises and excuses or sometimes even encourages harmful behaviours.
There is a massive societal issue in terms of violence and assault against women. I think we would just summarise it and try and generalise it rather than actually looking at the broader picture. It's an issue for everyone and that affects everyone.
A helpful way to think about how we've built a culture that normalises sexual violence is by thinking about it like a pyramid. The bottom layer of this pyramid, which is the biggest, is made up of things like sexist attitudes, rape jokes, locker room banter, catcalling, and victim blaming. When these attitudes and behaviours go unchallenged, which let's be real, they often do, the foundations for the top layers of the pyramid are set.
This enables the more explicit acts that constitute sexual assault, like image-based sexual abuse, coercive sex, and stealthing to happen.
I grew up around locker room banter, but it probably wasn't until university when I started to teach myself about consent, sexual violence, and sort of the culture that we live in as a society that enables violence that I really started to understand what locker room talk was and how harmful it was.
Because it might be that you're making a joke, that you're like, it's harmless, no one's here to hear it, it's not a big deal. But it's upholding a culture that says objectification of people is okay, dehumanizing people is okay, women are just A, B, and C. And that just means that in the culture we exist within, the attitudes and behaviours that go unchecked become violence.
I'm just going to be honest, we've all objectified, we've all dehumanised someone. I have. We've all participated in either direct activities, attitudes, or systems that have dehumanised others. And so I think we like the out to say it's those bad people over there, when the reality is we've all participated in this.
I don't think we can underestimate the impact that all of these messages have on people.
I don't think I've existed in the world as a woman and felt like sexual violence is something that people take seriously. I think I feel actually like most people don't see it as their problem to solve it, or don't see themselves as complicit in the culture that upholds it. And I think that can make women feel unsafe generally, whether they've experienced sexual violence or they haven't. They're living in a society where they see that there's quite a lot of apathy towards it, or there's not enough action to solve it, and so we kind of just feel unsafe.
Stomaching the reality that people we know and love have been assaulted can be extremely distressing.
It's also really tough to come to the realization that if 1 in 5 women and 1 in 16 men in Australia have been sexually assaulted since the age of 15, then people we know and are close to us could have experienced or even caused this harm. It can be really hard to process, and sometimes people don't realize they've been affected until a long time after it happened.
And there are lots of misconceptions about sexual assault that make it hard for us to come to the realization in the first place. Let's walk through a few of these together and get to the bottom of them.
Misconception 1. Most sexual assault is perpetrated by a stranger in the dark. In reality, it's the opposite. 33% of sexual assaults are committed by someone's partner, and 39% by someone they know.
This means that telling women what to wear, not to walk home by themselves at night, or to watch their drinks won't stop the majority of assaults.
That's uncomfortable. No one wants to sit with that reality that this is what's happening in our neighborhoods, in our schools, in our homes, in our communities. Like these are the realities. And at the same time, we can't address a problem unless we first diagnose it correctly. If we actually understand how this is happening and where this is happening.
It also means that as groups of friends, we have the opportunity to stop harmful behaviour before it escalates.
We want you to stand up for us and say, when your boys are engaging in locker room talk, that's not appropriate. We don't engage in that kind of conversation. We don't speak about people that way.
Say, hey, that's not okay. I don't like the way that you've handled this situation. I don't like the way you've just treated this person that I care about, rather than just backing someone with blind loyalty because they're one of the boys.
If people don't get pulled up on that stuff, they're going to keep doing it, keep taking more chances, gets worse, and it can spiral.
2. Women often lie about being assaulted. We hear this a lot. It's a common and genuine fear, but it's misguided. Here's the breakdown. 2 million Australian women have experienced sexual assault since the age of 15. Only 8% of women reported this to the police. Approximately 5% of those reports might be classified as baseless, but baseless includes cases with insufficient evidence, withdrawn complaints, or when a report has been made on behalf of the victim survivor and they don't want it to continue. It doesn't mean they are all malicious lies or false accusations.
So from there, only 1.2% of assaults end up in courts. Less than 0.1% end in conviction.
The numbers are in. The chance of someone being falsely accused of sexual assault is tiny, and yet the fear of being falsely accused is massive. The fear that one day you'll wake up to an accusation of sexual assault, lose your job, and be abandoned by a community. But the fact is, as a man, you are 230 times more likely to be sexually assaulted than to be falsely accused of sexual assault.
When we focus too much on this unlikely event, we avoid focusing on the real issue.
That so many Australians have been sexually assaulted in their lifetimes.
And this is something we have the power to stop.
If there are these two injustices where there are some false rape accusations versus this is how many sexual assaults exist in our society and such a small number actually see any justice, what's actually going to help our society, including men and boys who can be victims?
Misconception 3. If they didn't report right away, it must not be true. In reality, delayed reporting is extremely common, and 9 in 10 victim survivors will never report at all. Doesn't mean it didn't happen. Also, many victim survivors don't immediately realize they have been assaulted, let alone think about reporting. This could be because they feel confused or shocked or ashamed. They wrongly blamed themselves. Their experience wasn't stereotypically violent. Maybe they were forced or manipulated. They haven't received consent education and only realize they've been assaulted when they are taught it.
Beyond realizing an assault, reporting isn't a choice that everyone's safe or comfortable making or wants to pursue. This could be due to worry that they will not be believed by society or by the law, or the consequences they'll face if people find out. Fear of their safety, including fear of the perpetrator, distrust or fear of police and the justice system, or maybe they don't even know how to report. The length of time it takes for someone to come forward or realise that they've been assaulted has no bearing on the seriousness of the crime.
There are many reasons people don't report. People who are also dealing with trauma, also dealing with a system that doesn't show up for them. I'd also say, like, for people in your life that you care about, if they haven't told you something, does that mean it's not true or not real? There are so many reasons why victim survivors don't go to the police. I've had 4 police cases, all of which I was met with, it's not a big deal, you just need to do this, you just need to do this, that's partly your fault. Women and survivors are dealing with that all the time.
Media and everyday language have a huge influence on how we view sexual violence.
When shows or songs glorify pressuring people into sex,
When group chat banter reduces a person to a sexual object,
when pornography makes a lack of consent look desirable,
it quietly fuels a culture that normalizes sexual violence.
the outcome?
The normalization of objectifying comments,
Misogynistic slurs.
sex noises in the classroom.
Even when it's just a joke, what we say still leaves an impression.
It's not about canceling comedy, it's about being mindful of the people hurt by these words and attitudes, and thinking about how they can shape our culture.
When we notice and call out harmful depictions and celebrate respectful ones, we can shift attitudes and change behaviours.
Often the media can perpetuate victim blaming and sort of lead into questions around why didn't they report earlier, or what are they trying to achieve by bringing this report forward. And I think there's been a real misunderstanding of the barriers that exist for victim survivors.
It kind of makes you feel like, what kind of point is there to be talking about it if no one's going to believe me? Like, you got to open up and you got to talk about it and you got to get help, and people don't believe you and people doubt you, and it just brings you down. Then, like, what are you supposed to do?
We can see it, for example, in headlines of news articles where it's always the victim survivor's name as an example, and it's never the perpetrator. They don't often use correct terminologies such as sexual violence or sexual assault, or call out or label the fact that what happened was non-consensual.
That has a huge impact on how we think about sexual assault and rape. So if we're constantly sort of bombarded by this as our only idea of sex education, then we think that's normal.
Combating sexual violence means more than just telling people, don't rape.
It requires a shift in understanding consent as active and ongoing. Beyond no means no.
It also takes critical thinking, considering the impacts of a locker room banter, checking yourself when you default to thinking someone has lied about being assaulted, questioning a friend who says she was asking for it, and learning to spot harmful attitudes in your mates before they lead to harm.
I think if everyone actually just started being like, no, that's not okay, then it would stop being socially acceptable to act like that. So if everyone started calling out behaviour when it's happening before it gets to the point that it's gone too far, maybe there'd be a difference for sure.
This is how we dismantle the foundations of the pyramid we saw earlier, so that it begins to topple over. And at the same time, we can build something better in its place.
You can't address things unless you know that there's a problem and you're given the facts, the information, but then an invitation and maybe some encouragement and the appropriate challenge to say, you can be part of the solution, you can do something about this.
I think the more that we can do that as individuals within this society, the faster the rate of change that we're going to see.